It is my pleasure and honor to introduce one of the most amazing young voices in the social work profession, Miss Tamara Vest. You may recognize that name. There's been a lot of newspaper and video and the 2020 UK commencement coverage of Tamara's amazing story. We are so honored, Tamara, for you to join us today, and I will turn it over to you as our first of 5 amazing Social Work Lobby Day 2021 speakers. Thank you, Tamara.
Thank you so much, Brenda. And I just wanted to start today by thanking everyone who's in attendance and the individuals who are a part of the NASW Kentucky for allowing me the opportunity to speak on behalf of all Kentucky social workers. I know that everyone is used to sitting behind computer screens and having people talk at them by now. And it's easy to become disengaged and burn out when we're not able to connect in person, and when our service delivery has changed from being able to build those professional and emotional connections with the populations that we serve to sitting behind a computer screen for long hours every day. We're now 11 months into this pandemic that has changed everyone's lives, especially us as social workers and social work students. This being said, I believe that one of the best ways to connect and engage, whether in person or through video teleconferencing, is to really be vulnerable with one another. I've been in your shoes before as an audience member, listening to an individual speak, but not really having any further knowledge of how this individual connects to me personally. One of the most respected individuals in our profession, Brene Brown, states that vulnerability is uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. This is the topic of my presentation for you today. I want to be vulnerable with all of you, and I want to recognize the vulnerability that we've all been faced with over the past 11 months. And I want to discuss how vital vulnerability is to the social work profession. For my audience to engage and connect with me and trust what I'm conveying to them, it's my responsibility as their presenter to be vulnerable. Being vulnerable allows the door for trust and understanding to open. As a former foster youth of Kentucky, I've found vulnerability forced upon myself many times. I've seen and experienced some of the same experiences as the clients that we as social workers serve. Throughout these experiences, being switched from home to home and city to city, being told that the individuals who were supposed to care for my emotional and physical well-being could not, I have learned that being vulnerable, while scary, can also allow room for growth and opportunity. I quickly became used to the concept of vulnerability in life, in my undergraduate social work studies, and in my newfound social work career. I have exhibited this vulnerability several times throughout my work, advocating for Kentucky children and families, working on state policy, graduating and choosing to return to graduate school during the pandemic, diving into the workforce as a new social worker during the pandemic, and especially during this opportunity to speak with you here today. I am here today as someone who recognizes and understands the many abilities that it takes to be an active advocate and social worker. Along with my own engagements with vulnerability, I want to recognize the accomplishments of all of you who sit before me, because you too have mastered the art of vulnerability. To all of my peers, current colleagues, and advocates, you have allowed yourselves to persevere through 11 months of a pandemic that changed our entire lives. You have allowed yourselves to become vulnerable to your colleagues and supervisors when you were unsure if you could adapt to a change in service delivery. You allowed yourselves to be vulnerable to the clients that you serve when you implemented this newfound service delivery, and unsure that it would be just as good as before or if things would ever return to normal. My future colleagues, those of you who have chosen to persevere through your educational paths in order to fulfill this calling to serve during the pandemic, you too have mastered the art of vulnerability. As a recent graduate who completed the last 2 semesters of my education during the pandemic, I know of the uncertainty that you may feel when it comes to feeling prepared to enter the workforce and what that entails, or the uncertainty that you may feel when you were unable to receive face-to-face instruction and wondering if you've learned all that you should. You've allowed yourselves to be vulnerable when you chose to continue your paths, even though our education system has changed within the past year. You have allowed yourselves to be vulnerable when you were unsure of what kind of internship opportunities would be out there for you to complete, and taking a chance on completing them in person or adapting to completing them virtually. You have allowed yourselves to be vulnerable when you couldn't develop the same connections with your peers and professors that you would have received if you have been able to see each other face to face. All of you have all been very vulnerable over the past year. And though it may have been scary and at times uncertain, what is certain now is that it has made you stronger. It has made you confident, and it has unraveled a resiliency inside of you that you may not have been aware of. As a former foster youth who has been shown many reasons to shut down, shut everyone out, and just give up, I realized that there was something inside of me that wouldn't allow me to do so. That fire inside of myself and inside of all of us is known as resiliency. And it was our vulnerability throughout life and that the pandemic threw us into that allowed us to develop it and now recognize this inner resilience. And it is at this time that I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for allowing yourselves to experience this newly established vulnerability. I would also like to thank Governor Beshear for being vulnerable when proactively leading us through this pandemic during his first year in office, putting his faith not only into social workers and other frontline essential workers, but the public as well. He was vulnerable when he blindly trusted that his people would follow guidelines for the betterment of humanity. He has been a role model for all of us, and you have all been role models to me and for each other. I invite all of you to embrace being vulnerable and your resiliency and channel it into your professions and your advocacy. As social workers and advocates, we have been called upon to serve. And as Brene Brown states, vulnerability leads to courage. And it is this courage that you will now take forth into your service. Be vulnerable and be courageous in your journeys. Don't be afraid to believe in something or someone. Don't be afraid to ask why or to say no or to never accept no for the answer. Don't be afraid to take that step or that leap not knowing where your feet will land. All it takes is one individual, one voice. There's the saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, I'm here today to tell you that one voice, your voice, can change 1,000 or more lives. And that is what we were all called here to do.
Tamara, what a privilege it has been to listen to your amazing and inspiring story about vulnerability and courage. And you are the epitome of both of those for us across the state. We are so grateful and we thank you so much for sharing your story. But we have one more surprise for you, and it is we are so excited to present to you the Tamara Vest Social Justice Star 2021 Award. As much as we would love to have given this to you in person, Mother Nature had another idea, but we are going to continue to celebrate you across the year. And there's someone very special coming up next to send another message to you of gratitude. Thank you so much, Tamara. Take care.
I'm so glad that I am able to be here today to help honor you with this award. On behalf of SAFI, Specialized Alternatives for Families and Youth, which you are a valuable employee. As the Executive Director of SAFI, I honor you, and as the President of the Board of Directors of NASW Kentucky, I am so proud to be part of this and to welcome you into the profession of social work. Your wisdom, your compassion, your commitment to foster youth and resiliency is a model for everybody. And I know that this is just the beginning of really wonderful, great things for you. We are so happy to have you. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm State Representative Attica Scott, serving Kentucky House District 41 in Louisville, Kentucky. Happy Social Work Lobby Day 2021. Usually we're in person, we get to talk to one another in Frankfurt, but this year's different as everything has been for almost a year now. And I'm so glad y'all still doing the Lobby Day because the issues of social workers are important every single day. As an activist and organizer, I know that social work is justice work. And the reason I'm able to keep showing up in our state capitol, despite being only one of 2 Black women and only one of 3 women of color, is because I know I get to come home to Louisville and I get to talk to people across Kentucky who truly are standing up for for equity, fairness, and justice. That includes social workers. So because of you and because of the work that you do and your commitment to community, I'm committed as well. So I'm working on issues like Breonna's Law for Kentucky to restrict the use of no-knock search warrants. Breonna Taylor, one of her last tweets in December 2019 is that she was looking forward to one day being a mom. So I'm also working on the Maternal Care Act, because as you probably know, Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die in childbirth than white women, including in West Louisville, where I live. So I want to make sure that we address institutional and systemic racism in healthcare. As social workers, you see that racism every single day, and I know that you're doing what you can to dismantle those systems that aren't working for all of us across the Commonwealth, whether you're in Appalachia or rural Western Kentucky. Thank you for that work. I'm also making sure that I'm listening to our young people, and you work a lot with young people. So they've come to me over the years and they've asked me to file legislation to expand the teaching of African American and Indigenous history in our public schools. I've done that, worked with young people to file that bill again for this legislative session. And recently I had young people from Lexington and Louisville and Bullitt County who approached me and asked me to work on legislation protecting student journalist freedom of the press. As we've all seen over the course of the past year, it's been student journalists who have exposed some of the most important issues happening right here in Kentucky. I want to make sure they get to continue doing that. So again, thank you all for having this virtual Social Work Lobby Day 2021. I'm honored to be with you today, and I look forward to a time when we can actually be in person to have the important conversations that we need to move Kentucky forward.
On behalf of Kentucky Social Work Lobby Day, we have this presentation, this honor for you as a social justice star to Representative Attica Scott. From the streets and protests and then to the legislative floor and policy, you never cease to fight for justice for your constituents and for your community, and we thank you and we honor the example that you set for us every day. So
oh my goodness, thank you so much. Look, y'all, this is fancy. I love this. We are going to have something that I can sit on my desk in Frankfurt and show off to the limited number of people who get to come see us. But this is beautiful. This is wonderful. Thank you so much. This really, truly does mean the world to me, because I know that you all as social workers understand what it means to be committed to justice, and for you to honor and recognize the work that I'm trying to do at a policy level to bring the community, to bring the streets to Frankfurt means the world. So thank you so much.
It is my honor to introduce Tanner Mobley, who is the Executive Director of Band Conversion Therapy. Tanner is just one of the most extraordinary, amazing voices and humans that we can't speak highly enough about him. But we would like to honor you, Tanner, with the 2021 Social Justice Star of the Year Award. And we wish it could be in person, and we promise we will celebrate this with you when we can finally get together. But on behalf of Social Work Lobby Day and the 6 associations involved, and on behalf of every social worker across the state in Kentucky, thank you for everything that you're doing to ban conversion torture here in Kentucky. And I will turn it over to you, Tanner, so that you can share your story and wisdom with Kentucky social workers. Again, congratulations, Tanner, and thank you.
Thank you, Brenda, and I'm so honored to accept this award on behalf of my team. We've worked so hard over the past 5 years to make this a reality, and being so close this session and just seeing the momentum continue to grow at such a fast rate, it's just been an absolute honor. And thank you so much for recognizing our work. With all the events that have happened in the past year, I know all too well the fatigue, the self-doubt, and asking ourselves if we can make a difference. Sometimes our voice shakes, that's true, and as social workers, I know this must be a shared feeling for those of us who wish to make people's lives better. No other profession and generation has had to thrust upon them the burdens and ills that we see in society today. But let me tell you, and let me remind you, that one voice can change the world, and your voice alone has helped countless people. It is revolutionary. It is a revolutionary world that we live in. It is with our voice and our voices raised alongside one another in both solidarity and togetherness that creates change. It is your courage to use your voice that will change our community, our commonwealth, and perhaps the lives of Kentuckians. History is full of examples that show that this is true. It was a young monk who began the Protestant Reformation. It was a young woman who reclaimed the territory of France. It was a Black trans woman who threw the first brick at Stonewall, launching the modern day LGBT rights movement. And finally, right here in Kentucky, it was a nursing student from Powell County who was one of only 40 people arrested to successfully challenge Kentucky's sodomy law, a decade before the Supreme Court of the United States did the same. One voice can make all the difference in the world. These individuals had the courage to use their voices to change lives in the course of history. Nonetheless, these people also use their voices to inspire others, to join and build a ripple effect, to strike out against injustice, sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression, and improve the lives of others. It is through your voice and the synergy of our collective voices that we may create a new era for the people of Kentucky, to spark a movement to improve the lives of those touched by your profession. Your voice is making a difference and bettering the lives that you touch. I believe this is a shared belief between Banned Conversion Therapy Kentucky and Kentucky social workers. It is a belief, and these values and courage that we had to step up and speak out is why our missions overlap, including a need to protect Kentucky's kids and teens. What if I told you that it is still legal in the Commonwealth of Kentucky for licensed professionals to abuse children? Of course, I'm talking about conversion therapy, a widely discredited practice that aims to change a person's sexual orientation or gender identity. Conversion therapy robs a person of their authenticity, their ability to live life fully by the use of physical and emotional abuse. It's a practice often described by survivors as torture. It leads to lifelong mental health issues like depression, anxiety, PTSD, and substance abuse. It's a practice that must be stopped. Banning conversion therapy is a suicide prevention issue, with more than 4 out of every 10 kids who undergo conversion therapy attempting to end their own life. That's 42%. I was a student at Bellarmine University when I learned that conversion therapy was still being practiced today. While I served as president of Bellarmine's student-led LGBT organization, our organization became a safe space for a young freshman that had just come out of the closet. This person became a regular face at our meetings until the day that she disappeared. Feeling concerned, I reached out to other friends and learned that her family had sent her to a conversion therapy camp. My heart dropped. I felt that if I couldn't help this student and I couldn't find a way to contact her family, I had to do something to prevent situations like this from ever happening again. A few months later, I attended a conference and met Sam Brenton, the vice president of the Trevor Project and survivor of conversion therapy who's fighting to ban these practices nationwide. Through our conversation, I learned that Kentucky has no law on the books to protect kids and teens from this torture. As a professional that works with college students, I knew firsthand that young people struggle with so much in their lives, shaming, blaming, or telling them that they have to change something that comes so naturally to them is proven to be emotionally and mentally harmful, especially when it comes under the guise of state-sanctioned medical advice. When I got back to Louisville, I created a Facebook event to bring together Kentuckians interested in working on legislation to ban this universally discredited practice. A scrappy but passionate group of Kentuckians, both Republicans and Democrats, young and old, rural and city folks, came together to form Ban Conversion Therapy Kentucky. In just a few years, our organization has grown into a statewide grassroots coalition with volunteers in all 120 counties and more than 100 member organizations. From Louisville to Lexington, Paducah to Whitesburg, we've witnessed Kentuckians come together to fight for our kids. This year alone, Kentuckians across the Commonwealth have sent more than 100,000 emails to legislators in support of banning conversion torture. And it's poll results that have confirmed what we knew all along, that the majority of Kentuckians, 74% to be exact, oppose these brutal methods. No matter our differences, Kentuckians share the belief that our kids should live long and fulfilling lives. That's all parents ever want, right? Is for their kids to be safe and happy. And that's why we can't wait 1 year longer or one session longer to ban this harmful practice that happens right here in our Commonwealth. 5 years later, I never heard from the student that was sent to the conversion therapy camp. But Kentucky is finally on the cusp of becoming the first Republican majority state in the South to ban the dangerous practice of conversion torture. I hope she and other LGBT kids know that we're fighting for them so that no one ever has to experience this torture again. As Kentucky social workers and change makers, I look forward to fighting alongside of you, each and every one of you, to end the state-allowed child torture. Together, we can pass the Youth Mental Health Protection Act in 2021 and finally end these barbaric practices. Visit banconversiontherapyky.org to learn more. Thank you.
This is Nicole George, Louisville Metro Councilwoman. So Nicole, on behalf of social workers across the Commonwealth and their professional organizations, we are honored to present you the 2021 Social Worker of the Year Award for your dedication to the social work, field of social work, and your commitment to serving our community as a member of the Louisville Metro Council in District 21. So thank you for working tirelessly to improve the lives of Kentuckians.
I'm honored. What an honor.
There's no higher compliment than being recognized by one's profession. It's even more meaningful because my current position isn't often associated with social work. And yet I'm here to attest that social work practice is the foundation of my work as a local elected official. Whether it's making service referrals, organizing a block, looking at systems improvements, or new legislation, I'm doing social work all day, every day. Our social work values call us to address social problems and challenge injustice, while respecting the dignity of those we serve, prioritizing relationships, and acting with integrity. Values no one would deny should be embodied by those guiding policy decisions or taking political action, and are inherent to our profession. In 2020, our country, states, and local municipalities were called upon to reform. I'm proud of the work of the Louisville Metro Council. We allocated funding in response to COVID relief, specifically related with housing stabilization, and invested in opportunity youth. We passed an array of criminal justice reforms like banning no-knock, limiting use of force, and civilian review. I'm proud to say Louisville now has a fair housing ordinance and also a ban on conversion therapy. In thinking about this work, I want to take an opportunity to share a few takeaways relevant to 2020 and its relationship to our profession. First, when you see a social problem or injustice, ask yourself why the current policy exists and what needs to change. Then, dear social worker, jump right in. We have the power to drive the agenda, particularly at the local level, and your expertise on community needs lends itself to decision making. Second, stay activated. Most of the progress made in 2020 resulted from organized community outreach. If we're to make true gains, it will require ongoing attention and applied pressure. I want to wrap up with just one question. How would the events leading up to 2020 have looked different had more of us been guiding policy decisions along the way? Our code of ethics requires us to take social and political action. And yet it's the very last principle on our code, I'll challenge you to put it to the top and consider the impact of upstreaming our professional efforts on matters that seek to address need and injustice. My hope in receiving this award is that it brings the potential to inspire other social workers to enter the policy arena and consider serving in a political office. My last takeaway is that I'm professionally lonely as the social worker on the Louisville Metro Council, and our community needs you, so please join. Finally, I want to thank the NASW Kentucky for all they do to advance the profession and the values of our work. Thank you.
Hello everyone. I am thrilled to join you virtually today so that I may personally say thank you. As I said last year, you, our social workers, are the unsung heroes of Kentucky. And this year, you truly showed your resiliency and your dedication as you overcame the challenges from the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm not surprised. I've met a lot of you, and I know you are incredibly special people. Each of you has a gift that you use to build trust and to help those most in need. You lead with your heart as you work to build a better Kentucky for all you serve. I am so grateful and I'm so proud of you. And while I know the stress of the pandemic is especially heavy for you, it's encouraging to know we have so much to look forward to. The light at the end of this tunnel is getting brighter. We're administering the safe and effective vaccine faster each week and faster than we are receiving doses from the federal government. We will defeat this pandemic and we'll sprint out of it in 2021. But until everyone can get vaccinated, we need you to continue what you do best, looking out for others. We need to continue to mask up, social distance, avoid crowds, and practice good hygiene. We'll all get our shot of hope. We just need a little patience. We could have never anticipated this pandemic, and we certainly couldn't have predicted the impacts it had on our children and on our families. Thank you for never giving up on them. Thank you for showing up each and every day by adapting to meet the needs during this difficult time. I'm forever grateful, and I'm committed to showing up for you. This year in my Better Kentucky budget, I called for the funding and hiring of 76 new social workers for Child Protective Services. This was a priority in my first year in office, and it remains a priority now. Our state has the highest rate of child abuse in the nation, and it has for 3 years straight. It is unacceptable. We must work to bring change. You as social workers, you're the driving force for that change, but you need support. Each child welfare case is complex, and even more so now due to the pandemic. Risk factors such as substance abuse, mental health issues, family violence, and more have only increased because of COVID-19. Addressing these challenges and supporting our families is central to how we build the better Kentucky we all want and our children they deserve. And another part of that better Kentucky is ensuring our families have equal access to quality living conditions, health care, and resources for basic human needs, all of which you work tirelessly to advocate for and provide. You safeguard the rights of the underserved, and you work to create a more equal world for Kentuckians regardless of race, gender, or sexual orientation. You promote policies that value respect above all, seeing through the belief our country was founded on that all people are created equal. It's time we join you by seizing this opportunity to live out that promise together by working towards the common good of the Commonwealth like you do each and every day. Your work's invaluable, which is why we must invest in you. By hiring more social workers, we can significantly reduce caseloads per worker. This is a critical step in bringing transformational change to the Commonwealth. These decisions, they shouldn't be political. It's simply about what's doing right by our kids and by you. Every day we don't act, our kids suffer, and every day we end up fighting with each other over who has what power. We don't get the things done that must get done. I will continue to advocate for our kids and for you, their champions. You're the true spirit of Team Kentucky. I know it's not easy, but every day you're making a difference. I'm moved by your compassion, and I promise to always work to support you while I'm your governor. Thank you for allowing me to join you today, and keep up the good work. And remember, whether it's in this pandemic or every other challenge you face, we'll get through this. We'll get through this together.
Governor Beshear, I'm here today to present you with the Social Justice Star of the Year.
Oh.
This is a an award from all the professional organizations in social work in the state. We are just thrilled with everything you've done for the citizens of Kentucky throughout the year. You have led us through this pandemic that is just crazy. You have always been an advocate for social workers by wanting to provide more funding for them throughout the state. And you've been an advocate for our most vulnerable citizens in Kentucky. So we just want to present you with this award and thank you so much for all of your help with everything this year.
Well, thank you. And when you think about what it takes to get through this pandemic, strength and compassion, that's something we see in our social workers every single day. Now, even before this pandemic, you all walk into difficult circumstances. You see so much trauma, and thank God you were there to keep doing it day after day after day. Many times when our kids or our adults see you, it's on that most difficult day, maybe the worst of the crises they face. So we can't thank you enough here in Kentucky. You know, we believe that everybody matters. We talk about that in Team Kentucky, but you all live it out every day. So thank you for everything you do. This means the world to me because you all set the type of example that I want to live up to as a state official and as trying to get us through this pandemic.